ICU.
You've seen him in Carlito's Way, Traffic, and Boogie Nights. Veteran actor Louis Guzmán has been in the business for nearly 50 years. Not only is he an actor, starring in nearly 200 film and TV projects to date, but he's also a farmer who raised 5 kids in Vermont.
I think my biggest accomplishment in my life, really, is being a dad, because I could have all these accolades, but it also has taken away moments.
I'm Eddie Robinson, and stay tuned as we chat unguarded with award-winning actor Louis Guzmán. Born in Puerto Rico, Guzmán shares stories of growing up in New York City, how community informed his commitment to social justice, and how he's dealt with stereotypes as a Latino actor in Hollywood. Oh yeah, I feel you. We hear you. I see you. You're listening to ICU. I'm your host, Eddie Robinson. Louis Guzmán is one of the most prolific and recognized actors in Hollywood. With his ability to seamlessly transition between comedic brilliance and intense dramatic performances, Guzmán has captivated audiences across generations, earning him a place among the industry's most respected character actors. But acting wasn't always his passion, nor his calling. You see, Louis Guzmán is all about family and his community. Acting just kind of happened by accident. He was born in Calle, Puerto Rico, but as he likes to say, his mom Rosa was on a plane to New York City 15 minutes later. His early childhood was in Greenwich Village, but the family was soon able to move to a small new enclave in the Lower East Side, thanks to the hard work of his mother and stepfather. His mom, who was still committed to her job in a New York hospital into her early 80s, would always cook too much food for family dinners. Rosa would then pack up the leftovers and take Louis to distribute meals to folks experiencing homelessness in the nearby dilapidated Lower East Side neighborhoods. Louis knew that his calling was to work with the community in the streets that he came to know so well. He decided to become a social worker and activist, working with Puerto Rican youth in the Lower East Side, and a supporter of social issues like backing the United Farm Workers grape boycott and marching with Cesar Chavez when he came to New York City. Family, though, is the heartbeat that defines Louis's life. His mother and stepfather both influenced his worldview and sense of giving back. He married his wife Angie in the year 1985, and they dreamed of having many kids, but health issues left them without children. After a miscarriage, a beloved boy to be named Sebastian, the Guzmáns were inspired to adopt 4 kids. The Guzmán clan eventually included 5 kids in all, now all grown up. But they were his entourage, traveling alongside their father as he traveled the world for his acting work. He raised them on a farm in Vermont because he wanted them to have a good and unique childhood. Of course, he also just happens to be an award-winning actor with over 170 acting credits in film and television.
There she is. Oh, how we miss those accusing eyes and youthful sneer.
Oh, come on, I dream about this. I have actual dreams about this. About busting the top people, the rich people, white people. I know.
We're so pleased to have the legendary Louis Guzmán join us from his home in Vermont. Louis, thanks so much for being a guest on ICU.
Thank you.
Louis, before our recording, you were telling me about reconnecting with your biological dad as a young adult. Your stepdad was an important figure in your life, but you always wondered about your birth father, who you had never met. It wasn't until you went to pay a phone bill and saw a phone directory for Puerto Rico, and you just looked him up, right?
Yes. I knew my dad's name was Joaquin Guzmán. And I looked in the Puerto Rican directory. It had like 80. I said, no way. But I also knew that I had an aunt named Lidia Rivera. And there was like 6 of them. So I called those numbers, and the first 5 goes, no, we don't know no Joaquin Guzmán. The last one that I called was a young girl. She answered the phone. I said, hey, my name is Luis. And my dad is Joaquin. And she goes, oh, well, let me take down your number. And I'll ask my mom. So I went out for lunch where I was working on the Lower East Side at the community center. When I come back, the secretary is like, yo, there's this lady, she has called a dozen, she keeps calling every 5 minutes. And I go, oh, okay, cool. So I call her up. And she goes, Luisito, oh my God, we've been looking for you. This is a miracle. I just come back from Christmas shopping, but this is the biggest gift we ever got. You know, and I go, so I ask about my dad, which is her brother. It's, oh, your father lives here in Puerto Rico. I can't have you call him directly because he suffered a few heart attacks, and if you call him, it just might kill him. So let me call him first, set it up. So we spoke that night, me and my dad, you know, good to hear his voice. He sent me an airplane ticket. I flew down to Puerto Rico a week later. And then as I'm walking through the airport, there was like people saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was me and the person behind me. And then I see this man standing in the corner. Kind of had a bit of a resemblance to me. And I walked up to him, and it's my dad. And we hugged for like 10 minutes. We didn't let go, man. We were crying. We were super joyful, super happy. He introduced me to my 2 younger brothers, which right then and there, he tells them, this is your older brother. You know, you listen to him. I kind of looked at them. I said, man, I didn't want that much responsibility this quick, but we're going to get along just fine. And that was the reintroduction of my relationship to my dad. And I love my dad, you know. I love all my siblings, my mom. I thank my stepdad for, you know, always putting food on the table and a roof over our head and teaching me a good work ethic, and for providing me with a shirt and tie for when I got my job as a social worker at Henry Street Settlement. So, you know, like I say, you know, it all comes full circle, man. Family is everything.
Tell me more about becoming a social worker, because that was really what you set out to do as a career, right?
Well, I started as a youth organizer, went into becoming a youth coordinator with a group called Charas. I worked for organizations like Advocates for Children of New York City. I worked for Cultural Understanding and Neighborhood Development Organization, which was all run by young people. And then I ended up, we ran out of funding for some of these programs, you know, because Reaganomics, right?
Reaganomics was heavily based on the trickle-down theory.
And so I was collecting unemployment. And so toward the end of my unemployment, what happened was, a friend of mine told me about, hey, there's a job as a youth counselor at Henry Street Settlement House. So I said, oh, you know, so I put in an application, I sent in my resume, and the job required a master's degree. I didn't have a master's degree. I had a degree from the streets. I went to Outward Bound, which is a survival school. I went to the Institute of Cultural Affairs in Chicago, where I got 3 years of college in 2 months. It was one of the most intense programs I ever did in my life. I did go to City College for a year, dropped out as a freshman. I shouldn't even say dropped out. I just left because my calling was the streets, my activism. I also went to the College for Human Services for 3 years, you know? And I was always around intellectuals. I was always helping people. So I used to make a joke that I went to UCLA, University on the corner of Lexington Avenue. But the thing is that I came with a bulk of experience that I knew that a social worker wasn't going to have. Not to take anything away from anyone that had those degrees, because I know and I understand that's a lot of work. But I also put in my time in the streets, you know.
I'm Eddie Robinson, and this is ICU. We're chatting with the legend Luis Guzmán, New Yorican actor, producer, and activist. He's joining us from his farm in Vermont. What inspired you to start down that path of going into the activism and the community aspect of it all?
We lived in the West Village of New York City. Then we moved to the Lower East Side to brand new, spick and span, middle class housing. But outside of that enclave was the ghetto, the tenement buildings. And so that's where I would go to hang out. I would go hang out with my friend Eddie and Diego, and we were part of a street theater company, but they also did a lot of neighborhood festivals, poetry reading. That became my thing, When I used to walk down the streets, I used to see all those burnt out buildings, all those abandoned cars. I used to see all this drug dealing going on. It looked like a bomb had hit that part of the neighborhood. And it's like, something's wrong with this, man. Something's wrong with this picture. My people are better than this, I did in high school, got leadership training from an organization called Aspira. And Aspira put me in touch with who was I as a Puerto Rican, what was my Puerto Rican culture, because I'm going to tell you something. When I was in high school, I got suspended 12 times for speaking out, for telling teachers, I'm not learning this. In the World Geography book, it was like a book that thick. It was one paragraph about Puerto Rico. And it was like, I think our history is more than a paragraph. And excuse me, Miss So-and-so, but this class is 96% Puerto Rican. So I would get sent to the principal's office. The first time I got suspended for a week. Now, the way I was taught to read was in the second grade, I used to get pulled out of class because my mother and my father did not speak English. They only spoke Spanish. So they couldn't really help me with my homework. And the school thought something was wrong with me. And it was just a language barrier. So anyway, this lady taught me how to read. And one of the things that she taught me how to read was read the funnies in the newspaper, And so I was teaching myself how to read. So what happened in high school, to make a reference back to what was going on in these suspensions, I was reading this thing that in the 70s, there was all these Supreme Court cases of student rights, and students were winning their cases. And I also read that the American Civil Liberties Union was representing students. So what does Luis Guzmán do? I call the American Civil Liberties Union. And I say, hey, this is my situation. I'm being suspended, not because I'm a bad student, but because I'm outspoken. And when they asked me when my hearing, somebody will be there. And this little old man shows up, and he introduces himself, Leo Summers. I will never forget that name. I told him what I did. He goes, not a problem. We go in. He proceeds to tell the principal, now, if you want to suspend him for a week, just know he has every right to appeal. And he can appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. And so they made a deal that I would get suspended Fridays and Mondays. And they had to write it in pencil. So if I graduated, they had to erase it. I kind of believe that my activism really started with Aspira, because they gave me an identity and understanding who I was, and not only speaking up for myself, but speaking up for others.
That's right.
And that kind of flowed over into my work in the community. Man, we used to do street festivals. I used to organize young people. We started a recycling center. We started a gardening program. We had the first solar system in New York City, the first windmill in New York City. I was just a part of that whole enclave of people. And it was pretty awesome, because, again, all I wanted to do was just be a part of a movement. Listen, man, I got to sit down next to Cesar Chavez when they bought the Great Boycott in New York. And we were at an organizing meeting. And I was sitting next to this man, and as we organized, the great Edward James Olmos. I got introduced to him when they brought Zoot Suit to the Winter Garden Theater in New York City on Broadway. And man, that became my spiritual guide, that character, Wow. And I still have the original poster downstairs. And to this day, Edward James Olmos and I, we are brothers.
And you were still sort of trying to find your way into the acting world as well, right? I mean, because there certainly weren't a lot of Latinos on the big and small screens.
No, well, you know what?
In the early 80s.
We used to do street theater. But for me, it was nothing more than a hobby.
Oh.
Because I was an activist. I was not someone looking to pursue to become an actor. So somebody would write something and I would do 8 different roles in it. Or the incredible Betty Gordon. She was an independent filmmaker.
Okay.
And she put me into a movie called Variety.
Oh, pretty girls, you want to see are all in here.
I got paid $50 a day. Not bad for back then. And then Miguel Piñero we ended up doing the movie Short Eye.
Break it down, wasting away. I'm getting old.
And we got hired to work as background people, making $60 a day back in 1976. My father was pissed off.
Oh.
Because I was making more money than he was.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But again, my calling was the street and wanting to empower my community. I was 19 years old on the community planning board. I saw a lot of the stuff that we were up against, the bureaucrats and stuff. So then I got that job at Henry Street Settlement. I interviewed for a total of like 10 hours because the gentleman who interviewed me was very thorough. Matter of fact, for the second interview, he said, come back wearing a shirt and tie. I ran to my mom's house. I told my dad, yo, Pop, I need some of your shirts. And can you do like 4 ties for me? Because I never did that.
Sure.
So, I went back the next day, got the job. My first year, my job was, I ran a program called Job Shop. And it was Job Shop and then 16 weeks of on-the-job training for young people. And mind you, we're talking in the era when the minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. And I was up against crack dealers.
There you go.
That were offering kids $50 a day just to stand in the corner, just to let them know the cops were coming. That was my competition.
Coming up, we continue our chat with actor-comedian Luis Guzmán. He was a star community activist in the streets of New York, but he was also destined for global stardom. How did he go from social work to working in Hollywood? Luis never lost his social sensibilities throughout his career as an actor. But what adversities did he face as a Latino in the industry? And what moments inspired him to make a bigger impact as a Latino actor in Hollywood? I'm Eddie Robinson. I See You returns in just a moment. We'll be right back. If you're enjoying this program, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, I See You with Eddie Robinson. You can hear all the past episodes and be notified when new episodes are released. Also, please take a minute to give us a review or comment. We love getting feedback from our listeners. You're listening to I See You. I'm Eddie Robinson. We're speaking with veteran actor and social activist Luis Guzmán, who also just happens to be somewhat of a farmer. And he's also joining us from his family farm in Vermont. Louis, before the break, we were discussing your path to becoming a social worker, dedicated to helping people in your community to change their lives for the better. You had participated in a popular education theater and even indie underground films. But did you have a moment where you said, hey, maybe I'll give this acting thing a chance? Or perhaps you're sitting here 50 years later thinking about your social work.
So what happened was I became the social worker. My first year, my caseload was 75 young people. I asked the Department of Employment, what do they consider a success rate? They said if 22 of your kids complete the program successfully, that's good. And I go 22 out of 75, right?
Okay.
This is insane.
Yeah.
I completed 67 out of 75. Okay? All right? I just wanted to say that.
Nice.
Because that was how I motivated young people. How I motivated young people to not become third, fourth generation welfare roll recipients and stuff like that, to take charge of their life, to do good for themselves, So anyway, what happened was I did that for a few years, and one day a couple of kids didn't show up to my program. I went out into the street looking for them, which is something that I never did. But the reason I went into the street looking for them was I knew their families.
Got it.
You understand?
Yes,
and
sir.
I didn't want these kids to fall by the wayside. So I ran into Miguel Piñero, who I hadn't seen in a few years. And Mikey said, I'm ready for a TV show. They're coming to New York. They're going to be looking for people. Take down this number. Go get an audition. And I go, what? I was not pursuing that path. I was happy being a social worker because I was helping people to help themselves, right? Anyway, I go to the audition. I go to a second audition. The third week of that process, I get a phone call from a guy that said, my name is Richard. I represent your friend, Miguel Piñero. I'm his agent. I would like to be your agent. I go, for what? He goes, you just booked the co-starring part in the season premiere of Miami Vice. And I was like, I did what? I didn't know what Miami Vice was, because I really didn't watch TV. I watched it that weekend, and I said, holy shit! And all I wanted to get out of it, brother, was enough money to buy me a used car to drive to the beach on the weekend. So anyway, I got the car, and my best friend totaled it the next day.
Oh.
So, yeah, shit happened, right? So what happened was that I went back to my job because I didn't understand the entertainment industry, right?
What was going on? It was just, were they racializing you then?
So this agent, he would send me out on stuff.
Okay.
And I was getting all these little bit parts. But it was like the burglar, the gypsy cab driver, the rapist.
Okay.
It was all these negative roles,
Sure.
And the way I was looking at it was like, this is subsidizing my salary as a social worker. Because every 2 weeks as a social worker, after taxes, I was taking home $715 a month. I still have one of my pay stub in my wallet. It's a humble reminder, right? So I used to always look around when I used to work, And I noticed that the only people of color that was working was the guy that was changing out the bags to the garbage can. So I know that there was a deficiency of diversity when I started out working, But there were people like Raul Julia.
Keep it as a souvenir. You're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. And I'm not going to be there to take care of you. I'll be in a Mexican jail.
There were people like Freddie Prinze.
I'm not originally from L.A. I come from New York. I'm one of the New York Puerto Ricans. And, well, not really, not completely, because my father's Hungarian. So I'm a Hungarican.
There were like little sprinkles of us. I just kept going and keeping my head up. Many of us were always competing for one role. Because I used to go to auditions, and there'd be like 15 other Latin men competing for one role. And that was of a burglar or a robber, which was ridiculous, you know. That changed for me when I met the director, Sidney Lumet. And when I met Sidney Lumet, I did a movie called Family Business. And I had one scene in that movie, and that movie was with Dustin Hoffman.
What, are you crazy? I spent my lifetime thieving with my father, and now I'm going to thieve with my son. The two of you, crazy?
And I did my work, and Sidney goes to me, I'm going to be doing another movie in spring, and there might be a role in there for you. So I said, oh, great. Maybe I might work for 3 or 4 days instead of 1 or 2 days. Well, that movie came around, and the casting director wanted me to audition for a particular role. I said, no, this is the role that I want to audition for. So I called Sidney's office and said, yo, they want me to audition, and this is... So Sidney called the casting director and said, no, let him audition for the role he wants. I auditioned for it in front of Sidney, and before I left the room, as I'm walking out, he goes, hey, kid. And I turn around, and he goes, you got the role. Before I even left the room. And it was the first time that I worked on a movie from beginning to end.
Yo, Bobby Tex, with my own eyes, I seen Tony Vasquez save your life. It was when that Guinea Italian gang caught you on 114th and Pleasant Avenue in the playground there. What you was, maybe 18, 19 years old? And your ass was grass, man. And he waited in there with lead pipe, and he saved your ass, and now you're gonna deny him over his dead body? Man, cobarde.
Cobarde?
Yeah, you coward. Tony loved you like a brother, man. He worked for you since.
Hey.
And it was like, wow, this is pretty freaking cool. And so little by little, but you know, you gotta understand too, I would always encourage Latinos, Blacks, Asians, that I would see, yo, let's keep going. Let's keep doing this. You know, your calling is there. You just got to keep pursuing it, you know? And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was, you know, it was never meant to be easy. And I just kept it moving, and, you know, I just started getting all these different kind of roles. But I always used to tell young people, don't ever forget where you come from.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
Were there any scenes from Carlito's Way that you could recall that were pretty memorable to you?
Yeah, that opening scene when I see Carlito on the street, and I say, yo, you heard about Lali doing 25 years, and these young people out here, they will shotgun you, man.
Just to see you fly up in the air, man, Chacho, you better off in jail. Mira, que I don't even go up to Black Harlem no more, man. They're f***ing crazy up there. Remember Victor?
It was amazing, man. I remember that one scene when Lali is in the office and Pacino finds the wire on him.
Look at this. Wait. This is how you beat your 30 years, huh? Piece of
Well, I was outside that door listening to that.
Waiting for your cue.
And I got to tell you, Eddie, I was moved by listening to this guy talking about, yo, look at me, man, I'm in the chair, I got a in the bag. I was feeling for this guy, you know?
Hey, look what I got, look what I got. I mean, look at me. You got everything, man. I mean, come on. Look what I got to go around with. Diapers, man. I got diapers. I my pants every day. I can't walk, I can't you know? Go ahead and kill me, you
And I could hear that. And so, you know, then there's like, I got to snap out of it because I got to remember my cue. And they come in, and they like, I got to flip the switch and say, what? This a Chiva? He said, oh, yo, Carito, let me shoot him right now. Bah, 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 you know, and I get kicked out the door and stuff like that. But I also met John Leguizamo, who I think is one of the greatest one-man show people in the business.
Why is all our art called folk art, and then all of European art is called fine art, and then modern art is just our folk art gentrified?
And, you know, he does incredible messages and stuff like that. And so John and I became really good friends. You know, Johnny Ortiz, was in there. And, you know, it was just like a really, really cool experience, man. Working at Carlito's Way was one of the best parties I ever been on because, you know, we had all those club scenes. We had 300 of the best club dancers in New York. And so the holding area with all these boom boxes and people dancing and shouting their stuff, it was great, man. It was great. And it was just a great movie too, man, you know, the whole fashion, all that stuff, you know.
I'm Eddie Robinson, and you're listening to ICU. We're speaking with veteran actor Louis Guzmán about his life and career. You've seen him in some incredible films like 1993's Carlito's Way and TV series like Wednesday on Netflix. Louis is calling us from his home in Vermont. What are you seeing, Louis, now in your experiences? You're a veteran of the industry. You've seen how things have evolved, the inclusion of not seeing a lot of executive producers or directors who are brown. What is Hollywood lacking, in your opinion?
Man, Hollywood's lacking a lot. I will say that.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's come a long way.
Okay.
But it's not far enough.
Okay.
You know, I think that we need more people, brown and black and Asian, in positions of those executiveships. You know, it's frustrating to me because I know of black and brown and Asian people that have some of the most incredible projects, you know, and they get turned down, you know? And I hate to say this, but I feel sometimes, you know, that's a real racial divide. Because I'll see like advertising for a movie and I'll look it up and it's like, they spent $35 million on that. And the movie doesn't even open at theaters. It opens on pay-per-view or something like that, you know? And somebody paid to make a terrible movie. But I see all these great scripts. I see these great, young, aspiring executives that got their together, and that door, it just, you know, I love, there's a quote that says, for every door they closed on me, I'm coming back to buy the building. And that's my attitude. That's my attitude. And I tell all these young people that, you know, like I have a production company. And we've done a few films, gotten blindsided by distributors because that's how the system works, unfortunately. And so I want to break that up. I want to figure out how black and Latino, like, how can we start distributing our own movies? Because, you know, we have incredible stories to tell, you know? And you look at the Oscars and stuff like that, and you see a total misrepresentation. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take anything away from anyone, but all those people that are there deserve to be there, you know? They put in the work, you know, they get their award, great. But it would be nice to see a better balance, you know? I don't understand why blacks have to have their own award shows, why Latino have to have their own award show. I mean, I do understand why, because we're not getting the coverage. So we got to create our own thing. And mind you, we are, my God, we're at the top when it comes to music. You know, fashion. You know what I mean? We up and coming in that political world, big time. You know, as far as Hollywood goes, you know, I'm not asking for permission. I don't need nobody's permission. What I need is the support of the community, because, you know, we can go to see all these action movies and we're the ones that are creating that box office. But when it comes to our movies, we get 5 theaters for a weekend, one showing. You know, that's a growth misrepresentation of our community and our talent, you know? And listen, man, I work with everybody. I love everybody. I don't have no enemies. But, you know, what I'm speaking here is the truth. I'm not trying to alienate myself or anybody, but the truth is the truth. And you can't walk away from that. But till we, as a community, really come up with these projects and say, yo, let's back each other up, you know? Because I'm not interested in making Latin movies for Latin people. I'm interested in making Latin movies for the universe. Spike Lee does not make movies for black people. He makes black movies for the world to see. Tyler Perry does the same thing. You know, there's many people out there that do the same thing. Some of the Academy Award winning directors are Mexican, you know? They deserve those accolades, you know, because they do an incredible job. But on the executive level, on the I'm going to green light you level, we non-existent. We are not, and that's why I say, you know what? I'm not looking for that permission no more. Because it's going to be a real grind to make our own movies. But I always tell people in our community, you gonna do a movie? That better be a damn good one.
Movie. That's right.
And you better understand it's not about you sitting there saying, this is a great movie. Because I got shown a few things, and it's like, dude, I couldn't even sit through 10 minutes of this. We have to do better, and we're very capable. But again, we need that support. We need that financial support. You know, we need to set up some kind of a distribution thing just to get our stuff out there, get it seen, you know? And like, listen, I just want to work with everybody. Yeah. And everybody should work with everybody.
Yes. And we cannot wait to see the movie, your biopic, right? A movie that tells your story, your life.
Oh, Ed, I just want to tell you this.
Please.
There's a movie that I shot.
Oh.
It's called Story Ave.
You're going to have to stop talking so much. I can't even hear myself think. Hey, Luis. Nice to meet you. What's a gun like mine doing in a face like yours? I don't know, stranger. You out here often?
It was written and directed by a young man named Aristotle Torres.
Okay.
My son was one of the producers on it.
Love it.
You know what? It's a little movie that, like I said, man, unfortunately, like in our earlier conversation, you know, the whole distribution aspect of it just pretty much didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and just kind of got lost. But everyone that has seen that movie, everyone that has reviewed that movie has absolutely loved it. Why it didn't go further is beyond me. Kind of heartbreaking.
Because I remember seeing a news clip or something saying that after you read the script, you insisted on not only being in the film, but being a part of the film, executive producing it and the whole thing. But in your heart of hearts, why do you think it was dropped?
It got limited distribution.
Okay.
You know, it got, like I said, things got political.
Oh.
It was bull. It's a great film, great actors, you know. Everybody put their blood, sweat, and tears into this. And it just goes to show what happens when you're up against the machine. It's like, these are the kind of roles that I want to always be doing. You know, they're beautiful. You know, they're heartfelt. There's a tragedy to them. But again, it's just something that it was eye-opening, and I wanted to support this young Latino filmmaker. I wanted to support my son. You know, we was up against a lot of stuff, you know, and also we didn't get the support that we should have gotten from certain people, and that was very telling to me, because I have always supported everybody in every way, in every form. You know, it's messed up, you know, but you know what? I keep it moving, I keep it going. I'm not going to go down like that, so.
Coming up, we wrap up our chat with acclaimed actor Luis Guzmán. We explore the challenges and triumphs of his remarkable acting career. Plus, a moment of vulnerability, as Louis shares a story about his friend, the late Robin Williams, known as one of the greatest comedians of all time, how his death by suicide a decade ago still resonates with him and has impacted his entire life moving forward.
Nobody really sees us like, the name of your podcast. Nobody really sees us as the human beings that we truly are.
I'm Eddie Robinson. A revealing final segment you do not want to miss. I See You returns right after this.
If you're enjoying this program, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, I See You with Eddie Robinson. You can hear all the past episodes and be notified when new episodes are released. Also, please take a minute to give us a review or comment. We love getting feedback from our listeners.
This is I See You. I'm your host, Eddie Robinson. We've been speaking with veteran actor and comedian Louis Guzmán. His acting range is quite fascinating. One minute he's a bad guy or a villain. The next, he's playing a cop or a detective. Whatever the role, his experiences in life have provided a strong foundation for him. Starting off as a social worker, then being involved in activist street theater work. The veteran actor-comedian shows no sign of slowing down as he opens up about his family life and career with a quick advisory, as much of this conversation will include a discussion of suicide. If you or someone you know may be considering suicide or is in a crisis, call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Calling us from his home in Vermont, I see you as we wrap up our chat with Louis Guzmán. I look at you and your storied career. I sometimes think of you as the people's actor. It's like when I see you, I see someone who's devoted, who's loyal, who's community-oriented, so relatable, so warm-hearted, despite all the intense range of characters that you portray. What do you think it is about you that so many people of different ethnicities, of different backgrounds, of different age groups, why do they gravitate to you?
Thank you. Wow. I have to say that I'm very humble. I'm very humble, man. I know what it is to meet someone who's iconic, and I know what it is to be kind of dismissed by someone that you look up to, and that is hurtful. And my mom, I was out somewhere with my mom many, many years ago, and somebody wanted an autograph, and I said, excuse me, I'm with my mom. My mom grabbed me by the collar, and she's face to face with me, and she goes, those are the people that pay your bills. And when she said that to me, I was like, that changed a lot in me. But, it also just showed me that, being humble, you're making a difference in somebody's life. And the fact that you take 30 seconds to say, hey, what? And I ask people now, what's your name? What do you do? Where are you from? Because I really want to know. Somebody, nowadays everybody wants a picture with you, and sometimes it's like, can I take a picture with you? And so I had the right upbringing. I know what it is to see someone that I really look up to, that really does take the time. I don't show up thinking that I'm better than anybody. I don't show up with a big ego. I come here to support, to do my art, to make you look good, because you're going to make me look good. This is a team effort here. Let's go.
Could you share with us a story or narrative of the most challenging experience you've ever encountered as an actor? Whether if it was on set or during a particular scene, it's an incident or something that's happened that's resonated with you over the years. You know, it may have been negative, it may have been positive, it may have inspired you or motivated you to keep going, but it pops up in your mind repeatedly.
My God, there've been so many. I guess for me, it's been losing people that I've worked with. And one of those being Robin Williams, because I knew Robin. He was such a joy.
Now, in this class, you can either call me Mr. Keating, or if you're slightly more daring, oh, Captain, my Captain.
I saw sides of Robin that most people don't really see. And I had just flown back from Paris. I did a movie out there, and I flew back, and I'm coming through immigration, and I finally turn on my phone, and my son says, "Hey, Pop, we lost Robin."
Good evening. A brilliant light has gone out in Hollywood tonight. Robin Williams, whose fierce, frenetic comedy captivated us for decades, has died at age 63.
And at the time, I didn't understand what he meant by that. And I got into the car, and I'm getting texts from a few of my friends. They say, "Yo, sorry to hear about Robin. Sorry to hear about Robin." So I looked up, like, the news, and it says, you know, Robin Williams suspected of committing suicide. And so when I got to my apartment in New York, and my son opened the door, I basically collapsed. Because, you know, we do a lot as performers and stuff like that. But nobody really sees us. Like, you know, the name of your podcast, you know, nobody really sees us as the human being that we truly are. And, you know, sure, we're there to entertain, things like that. And, you know, you get someone, and the reason I bring up this example, you know, because it is life-changing in the fact that you do realize how precious life is, and no matter how funny you are, you live with a certain pain, and nobody knows, nobody sees, you know. Because I've lived with it, and I've seen other people live with it, and I've had to bring some people out of that despair myself, you know.
And a question that we always love to ask people, of all the accomplishments, you know, you're a successful award-winning actor in multiple film and TV roles, the remarkable talent and acting professionals you've worked with, you've collaborated with, you're a father, you're a husband, a brother. Luis Guzmán, what lessons have you learned about yourself thus far?
That I'm sensitive, that I can be vulnerable at times, that I work things out, I work through things. I still got things to learn about myself, and I'm okay with that, because I want to learn more. I think my biggest accomplishment in my life, really, is being a dad, because people don't understand, you know, I could have all these accolades, you know, and done this, you know, done that, but it also has taken away moments, basketball games, plays, birthdays, and, you know, it gets to a point that all my children are adults, and I am now making up for that lost time, you know, because I love my family, I love my kids, I know what they mean to me, I know what I mean to them, and I told this to any man I see, that, you know, being a dad is the most important job you're ever going to have in your life. And so I want to always live up to that, you know, because you never stop being a dad. You know, being an actor, you know, God has helped me along the way. My own spirituality has helped me along the way. my mom, my dad, my stepdad, my community. What's that saying? It takes a village to raise a child, and this is your child. You know. So I will always encourage anybody to do good in life. You know, to do the best that they can. You know, I've dealt with like a lot of friends who I've lost to drug addiction and alcoholism and AIDS and not taking care of themselves and stuff like that. But I have a lot of good friends that have come out to see the light, are living a good life, you know. And like I say, you know, we just live the human condition the best that we can. I don't call it the struggles of life. I call it the challenges of life. You know, because a challenge is something that you take on, you can overcome, and you can learn with. The struggle is too steep. And sometimes it is a struggle, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I believe that when we look at something as a challenge, we can take it on. We can do what we have to do.
Veteran actor, producer, Luis Guzmán. Thank you so much for being a guest on ICU.
Eddie, I hope we get to meet one day, brother. We owe each other a hug and some stories, okay?
Our incredible team includes technical director Todd Holslander, producers Laura Walker and Micho Jacob. ICU is a production of Houston Public Media. Follow us on Instagram and X. We're at ICU Show or at facebook.com/ICU Radio Show. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen and download your favorite shows. Check out our show page, icushow.org. I'm your host and executive producer, Eddie Robinson. And I feel you. We hear you. I see you. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.